Kakalosh Boker Tov. Just wanted to share with you a halacha, which is to do with a keli shemelachto leisur. A keli shemelachto leisur is a utensil which is used for isurim. So anytime that you're going to have a utensil which is going to be used for an isur, on Shabbat you're allowed to move it letzorech gufo or tzorech mekomo, which means you're allowed to use it in order to use the body of the utensil, or you're allowed to move it because you need the space of the utensil. So I'll give you an example. You have a hammer. Now a hammer, we know, is used for bonev on Shabbat. It's used for building. So you come and you're going to hammer in, whether it's going to be a nail or anything else. So therefore it's a kli shemelachto liisur. The purpose of the utensil is for an isur. Now I could take the hammer and I could break open a coconut and I could have a coconut on Shabbat. So therefore, if right now this is a kli shemelachto liisur, right, or a pen is used to write. So it's a kli shemelachto liisur. I'm not allowed to write. Kotev is a melacha, and therefore I'm not allowed to write on Shabbat. So therefore, if I'm going to come and I'm going to take this pen and I'm going to use it to scratch my head, right? So therefore, I just took this kli shemelachto liisur and I used it for tzorech gufo. Or I took the hammer and I broke open a coconut, right? Or I took scissors and I cut open a bag of chips or whatever it is that you need, a freezy. So that's called, you're taking a kli shemelachto liisur and you're using it for tzorech gufo. What is tzorech mekomo? Tzorech mekomo is, for example, I need the space. So I have right now the pen on the table and I need to sit down at the table. So I'm going to pick up the pen with my hands and I'm going to move it somewhere else. Because since I come and I need the space of where the kli shemelachto liisur is found, I'm allowed to come and I'm allowed to move it away. That's called the kli shemelachto liisur is going to be permitted. Letzorech gufo or tzorech mekomo. Now the question that we ask is, what happens if it's bothering us? Bothering us just not mean because, for example, I have a pen on the table and guests are coming. Because that is already going to be an isur. But what happens if it's going to be bothering us? So for example, a person has an alarm and the alarm is on the phone and all of a sudden the phone starts ringing, or he's got an alarm clock and the alarm clock starts ringing. So therefore, it's bothering me that it's going to be there. Am I allowed to come and am I allowed to move this object? So there's going to be two different halachot that we have to evaluate over here. For example, if it's going to be a phone, maybe it's muktzeh mechamat chesron kis, which means maybe it's going to be muktzeh that is going to be very expensive. And any time that you have muktzeh, which is going to be very expensive, so therefore I cannot move it, even for tzorech gufo, tzorech mekomo. However, though, right, if right now you would give it to your child, so for example, you come and you give your child to look at pictures, right, to see a video that you've taken, or things like that, it's not muktzeh mechamat chesron kis. So therefore, that is going to take away the first form, which is going to be muktzeh mechamat chesron kis. Now we have to just analyze, is that considered tzorech mekomo or not? So here in the Sefer, it brings down the Shut Machazeh Eliyahu. The Shut Machazeh Eliyahu was Rav Falk alav Shalom, that he was a rabbi in Gateshead for many, many years, right? And he was a very big expert in all of Ilchot Shabbat. And he says over here like this, he comes and he says to remove a kli shemelachto liisur from the room, and even though you don't want to use the gufa kli or the space of the keli, כיוון שעצם הימצאותו של הכלי שם מפריע לו, כשהוא מונח כך בגלוי באותו מקום, מותר לטלטלו לצורך ייפוי החדר, שבחייגבנה חשיב שפיל לצורך מקומו. He comes and he says, what happens if I want to come and I want to remove it? Because it's bothering me there. Why? I want it for the beauty of the room, right? Or for example, here it's going to wake up the rest of the house. So he comes and he says it's going to be muktar, and that's considered tzorech mekomo. Heyot vegeder tzorech mekomo hu. What is tzorech mekomo? Kol tiltul shu letzorech hashabbat, ben shemishtamesh bimkom hakli, or behasarat hakli mityape hacheder, and that is kavod letzorech Shabbat. And now he comes and he says, I have a proof. What's the proof? He says, how do we know you're allowed to take it if it's bothering you? The Gemara Masechet Shabbat Memeh Amud Aleph says, Ma'u letiltul shraga de chanuchta mikameh chavre b'shabbata. Right? He comes and he says like this. The Gemara is going to ask somebody that came and he lit the Ner Chanukah on Erev Shabbat at the entrance of his house, right? B'tefach hasamuch l'shut harabim. After it turns off, you want to come and you want to remove the Chanukiah from the entrance of your house on Yom HaShabbat in order that the Goyim should not see the Chanukiah at your entrance. And they came and they made a gizra not to come and light a candle. If they're going to catch you, you're going to be punished with a monetary fine. But it's not sakanat nefashot, obviously. Because it's sakanat nefashot, there's nothing what to talk about. So he says, is it permitted to come and to remove it afterwards or not? So he comes and he says, you see from here, that the reason why, according to Shitat Rabbi Shimon, it's going to be mutar letaltel ner, to move the candle after it already turned off, is that since it's kli shemelato leisur letzorech mekomo, and therefore there we're talking about that you're not, the one that's lighting it is not meunyan lishtamesh bimkom, you don't want to use that place where the petach habayit is poneh l'shut rabim, but rather you're just taking it away in order that the goyim should not cause you problems, and it's still considered tiltul tzorech mekomo. So you see from here, it's mutar letaltel kli shemelato leisur, even if you don't want to use the actual space, but rather you're just moving it because where it is, it's bothering you. The Magid Avraham also brings this down. He comes and he says, and he didn't say that's only that you're actually coming and you're going to be using the actual space of the item. So therefore, the Falk is coming and giving you an incredible yesod, and he's telling you that if it's going to be that you need this space, or it's going to be that it's bothering you where it is, it's going to be permitted. It's also brought down in the Shmirat Shabbat ki ilchata. I'm going to quote you here in Perek Kavchet Ot Lamed Daled. He says, "Machshir telefon nayad." We're talking about now the cellular phone. Hareu klishim lachto liyisur. It's considered klishim lachto liyisur. V'lachen, and therefore, im kivnu oto b'lifnei Shabbat. If you set it up before the Shabbat, al menat sheishamesh bo b'Shabbat kishaon meorer. So you're using it now as a shaon meorer, which means you're using it as an alarm clock. So he says, Asur la'asot bo kol shinui b'Shabbat. You're not obviously allowed to do anything with the phone on Shabbat. You're not allowed to start turning it off or putting snooze. Ach mutar letaltelo lemakom acher, but you're permitted to move it to another place. Kedei shelo yafri'a lo hatziltzul, in order that tziltzul, that the ringing, is not going to bother you. So here you see the same yesod that we brought down before, that it comes out that if right now a person has the cell phone, obviously, if it's connected to the wall, you can't move it anywhere. Obviously, you're not allowed to come and put your face to it because the phone, right, we've actually tested it. These phones, if you're going to pick it up the way that it is, nothing will happen. But if you turn it like this, even if it's ringing, it will actually open. So that you're not allowed to do. But if a person right now is going to pick up the phone, which means he's just picking it up and he starts moving it to another place, he's going to move it to another room, he's going to move it to wherever it is, that is going to be permitted, but that is considered tzorech mekomo. Not because you need the space where the phone was, but just because it's bothering you where it is, that in itself is considered tzorech mekomo.